Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Ramunatira Vanachari Ramunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Astatara Sata Sri Srimad The Divine Grace of our Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki His Confounded Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki BBT Foundry Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Savior of the whole world is Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Chiliva Vishnu Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Astatara Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Gaur Premanandi. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. 19 and which one? It's not in there. This is chapter 53. What's this sloka?
18 and 19.
18 and 19. That's what I thought. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 53rd chapter, text 18 and 19, chapter titled Krishna Kidnaps Rukmini. kṛṣṇa-rāma-dviṣo yattāḥ kanyāṁ caidyāya sādhitum yady haret kṛṣno rāmādyair yadubhir vṛtaḥ yotsyāmaḥ saṁhatās tena yotsyāmaḥ saṁhatās tena niścita-mānasāḥ ājagmur bhū-bhujaḥ sarve samagra-bala-vāhanāḥ. Please chant. kṛṣṇa-rāma-dviṣo yattāḥ kanyāṁ caidyāya sādhitum āgatya haret kṛṣno rāmādyair yadubhir vṛtaḥ yotsyāmaḥ saṁhatās tena niścita-mānasāḥ ājagmur bhū-bhujaḥ sarve samagra-bala-vāhanāḥ. ājagmur bhū-bhujaḥ sarve samagra-bala-vāhanāḥ. Prabhupada said to chant 10 times, so we need at least 7 more devotees. kṛṣṇa-rāma-dviṣo yattāḥ kanyāṁ caidyāya sādhitum āgatya haret kṛṣno rāmādyair yadubhir vṛtaḥ yotsyāmaḥ saṁhatās tena niścita-mānasāḥ ājagmur bhū-bhujaḥ sarve samagra-bala-vāhanāḥ. Ladies, kṛṣṇa-rāma-dviṣo yattāḥ kanyāṁ caidyāya sādhitum āgatya haret kṛṣno rāmādyair yadubhir vṛtaḥ yotsyāmaḥ saṁhatās tena niścita-mānasāḥ ājagmur bhū-bhujaḥ sarve samagra-bala-vāhanāḥ. kṛṣṇa-rāma-dviṣo yattāḥ kanyāṁ caidyāya sādhitum āgatya haret kṛṣno rāmādyair yadubhir vṛtaḥ sarve samagra-bala-vāhanāḥ kṛṣṇa-rāma-dviṣo. Prepared kanyāṁ, the bride, caidyāya, for Śiśupāla, sādhitum, in order to secure, yady, if, āgatya, coming, haret, should steal, kṛṣṇa, Rama, by Balarāma, ājagmur, and other, yadubhir, yadus, vṛtaḥ, accompanied, yotsyāmaḥ, we will fight, saṁhatās, joining all together, tena, with him, yady, thus, niścita-mānasāḥ, having decided, ājagmur, came, bhū-bhujaḥ, the kings, sarve, all, samagra, complete, bala, with military forces, vāhanāḥ, and conveyances. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. To secure the bride for Śiśupāla, the kings who envied Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma came to the following decision among themselves. Quote, if Kṛṣṇa comes here with Balarāma and the other yadus to steal the bride, we shall band together and fight him. End quote. Thus those envious kings went to the wedding with their entire armies and a full complement of military conveyances. Please repeat. To secure the bride for Śiśupāla, the kings who envied Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma came to the following decision among themselves. If Kṛṣṇa comes here with Balarāma and the other yadus to steal the bride, we shall band together and fight him. Thus those envious kings went to the wedding with their entire armies and a full complement of military conveyances. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word or his disciples. The word saṁhatās, which normally means bound tightly together, may also mean thoroughly struck down or killed. Thus, although Krishna's enemies thought they were unified and strong, saṁhatās, in the former sense, they could not successfully oppose the personality of Godhead, and consequently they would be struck down and killed, saṁhatās, in the latter sense. Om Jnana Tamrandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshurmurtabhina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankaite Gurum Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataram. There's a very engaging section of the Bhagavatam, as we know from reading Krishna book and Prabhupada's summary study of the 10th canto, and how nicely it flows. And we always thought how in New York we had the Vaikuntha players. Prabhupada was very happy to have so many talented which is in our museum in New York, by the way, if anyone ever comes and wants to visit, we'll show you around. And he was, and this was, one of these pastimes was the kidnapping of Rukmini. So this is like full circle, reading about this here again. And this is, people are so much engaged in hearing these different types of activities, and the mundane materialists who think they're inventing something. They have these television series, and people are completely enamored and engrossed and caught up in this make-believe world. They have this, what is that one? Game of Thrones. Right? They watch this. This is nothing compared to this. This is the real Game of Thrones. This intrigue. You know, when you read Mahabharata, there's so much there to engage the mind. One doesn't have to turn to some alternative. It's Krishna's energy being misused to bewilder the living entity, to forget him. But it's so similar, and people don't realize it. But when they come to Krishna consciousness and they read Krishna book, then somehow it comes to their mind that yes, this is the original activities of the living entity being portrayed in this fashion. But we have to get them, these books. One year we distributed in one evening thousands of Krishna books. We couldn't even, on a Christmas, in a place called Rockefeller Center, where tens of thousands of people gather. So it was a very special. And because we were getting ready to move into a new temple from our temple on Henry Street, we didn't want to move these pallets of books. So we wanted to distribute them. So everybody went out for practically 24 hours to distribute all these Krishna books. And then Prabhupada was given the report that the devotees in New York had distributed 10,000 Krishna books. So this is the type of activity we want to hear about. We don't want to hear about these mundane things. We want to hear about the devotees who are going out and conquering over the material energy. These pastimes are relishable. When we hear about the Sankirtan stories, everyone feels enlivened. Because you know how Krishna is interacting in this Sankirtan Yajna. And that those who go out, they recognize how Krishna is acting through these various souls who approach the book distributors. They don't even know sometimes why it is that they're, and then somehow or other Krishna reveals it within their heart and they take the book. So this is going on continuously all over the world on a daily basis. So this is the real pastimes. Krishna's Nitya Leela is going on just like this, continuously. There's no end. And there will never be an end. As long as we remain strong to our vows and to our commitment to Srila Prabhupada. And for that reason, therefore, we assemble together, because this sadhu sangha is the strength. It's where we derive our strength in order to continue to fight against the onslaught of Maya. You know, when one has his mind fixed in his service, then nothing should distract him. It doesn't matter. Even some emergency may so-called be there. You know, we have some more important work to do. We don't neglect some simple thing, but we don't want to become distracted unnecessarily, which is what happens. People become entangled in political affairs. They worry about what's happening in the world. But Prabhupada was very clear that this is the same birth, death, old age, and disease, but just in a different light given by some other person. But it's the same. And Prabhupada commented about this, specifically New York Times, that when you come on Sunday, and Prabhupada would get the New York Times, the paper is 6 inches thick. And Prabhupada had so many trees killed unnecessarily just for this useless Gramya Katha. And what is the point? And people, they read about it and they become enamored, or however you want to call it, bewildered by what's going on. And they forget about the goal of life. They forget that I should be doing something more important. And they become, what is that term? Keyboard warriors. Simply commenting and commenting, and it's a useless activity. You know, what can this accomplish? The only thing that can change the world is the Sankirtan movement. Yagnaya Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Sumedasah. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna Sango Pangastra Parshadam. That the real instruments of battle are the devotees engaged in this Sankirtan activity. These are Lord Chaitanya's weapons, not the chakra, the gada. That's for a different time. Maybe in the future it may come to that point, but certainly not at this juncture. The Kshatriyas, those who have that inclination, they should carefully manage Prabhupada's temples. That is their perfection. Because these temples are just like forts in the middle of Maya, just like if you go to some country, in order to establish a foothold, you have to establish a fort. Right? Everyone knows about American in the West, and they had the forts, Fort Apache. Yeah, and they had to gather inside to protect from the hostile native population. Hostile for a good reason, right? But nevertheless, you have to have a fort. So we have so many forts. We have hundreds and hundreds of temples. And every day the devotees go out the doors and they fight Maya. And then in the evening they come back and they have kirtan before the deities. Kṛṣṇa Balarāma, Sham, Shishi Gornitai, Shishi Radha Govinda. So this is we don't have any other life than this. And nor do we need any other life. What does one need more than this sanctified atmosphere? Just like in Vrindavan, everyone can recognize such a sanctified atmosphere. But then if you go to New York, where is that sanctified atmosphere? Only in the temple. Of course, if you're remembering Srila Prabhupada, then everywhere you go in New York, Prabhupada was there, practically speaking. Someone can say, yes, West End Superette, the supermarket where Srila Prabhupada used to get his few vegetables to cook for Dr. Mishra and the others, or to the Paragon bookstore where he would put his books on consignment, or to any of these other places, Washington Square Park or Tompkins Square Park. So these one is never far from Krishna or Prabhupada if he has that determination to always be constantly engaged somehow or other and acting on their behalf. Then he cannot help. He thinks, I'm Prabhupada's man, I have to act like this. I cannot act independently, I cannot act in some contrary fashion. I cannot give some embarrassment to the spiritual master of the society. So one always has to be, in this way he conducts himself, Prabhupada said, like a gentleman or a gentlewoman. We are representatives of the ambassador to the spiritual world. So it's a very elevated position if we take it as such. And it is meant to have the utmost concentration, vyavasayatmika buddhi, in every aspect of our service, one-pointed attention, no deviation, no distraction. You know, this is, of course, everything takes practice, but that's why we're here in the temple, to practice. Just like when the soldiers, before they go into battle, they have basic training, and then they have advanced infantry training, and then they have additional specialized training. So all these different things are available here, whether it's the Bhakti program, Bhakti Shastri, ISKCON Disciple Course. These are all meant to give us some basic training so that we don't go out into the field unprepared. But we have to also recognize that this is the real thing. It's not, when you go step outside the temple doors, everywhere is Maya. You know, it's a hostile enemy territory in one sense, right? My son was in Afghanistan. So all the kids who joined, they were all young men. They all play video games. So what is that famous, many famous video games? Call of Duty, Medal of Honor. They want to get these kids psyched up so that they can do something. It's unfortunate, but this is the reality of the material world. But there's a big sign over the entrance to the gate of this huge base, big military base. But it's only on the inside of the gate, not on the outside. On the outside is some official designation. Bagram Airfield, this and that there. On the inside, it says no respawn after this point. Respawn in a video game means if you die, you come back to life. But when you go out that gate and you get killed, you don't come back to life. So it says no respawn after this point, outside this point. You die, you die. So they want to get them, they have to give them some reality check. It's not a game. So it's also not a game for us. We have to take it very seriously. You know, that we should always be, our demeanor should not be just to take everything lightly or casually, but whatever we do, we should do with attention to detail. There's anasaktasya visayani tarmupayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yukta vairagya yuchate. So we have so many talents. Everyone has some propensity, proclivity, and he can engage that in Krishna service. He has to find that service that he can identify with. He doesn't have to necessarily like it. Just like we outside before the temple, maybe we were doing something just to get money, but you happened to be good at it. Maybe you're a carpenter. And then you become a devotee and you think, oh, now I have to become a carpenter again? And now you're a carpenter for Krishna. And so you're using that talent in Krishna service. And Krishna will reciprocate. Maybe you didn't even like to do it. Maybe you were some other type of tradesman. But everything can be engaged in Krishna service. There's no check in this regard. Maybe there's a few checks. Butcher, can't see too much use for that. But there's always some, maybe anatomy. I mean, there's doctors. I mean, what are doctors? Basically, they're just glorified butchers. They're cutting open the body, and they're doing so many things, and they're taking out so many organs. So it's not a very high profession. Prabhupada said that they're basically Shudras. They're basically Shudras. Who were the surgeons in the medieval times? Anyone know? Who were the surgeons? The barbers. The people who would cut your hair, they were the surgeons. So who can imagine? It's not a very elevated position. Now it's become elevated. But messing around with bodies is nothing nice. So it's not very good service. One of my godbrothers, he asked Prabhupada, he came from a family of medical practitioners. So he was in school, and when he joined the temple, he asked Prabhupada, I'm in medical school, should I continue? Prabhupada said, no. There are enough doctors in the material world. You should become a doctor of the soul. He wasn't keen on us continuing some Jai Ram Ji ki, Hare Krishna. He wasn't keen on us continuing mundane education. It's a distraction. Better to distribute books and to rescue hundreds of people who might otherwise be lost in the slaughterhouse education. They call them, what do they call them? Diploma mills. It's like you have a cotton mill or a flour mill. They simply churn out. They put you in a grinding stone and they crush your critical thinking, and then they give you a paper at the end and say, here, now you're a PhD. What is that PhD? Prabhupada said, fully dog. Fully dog. But Prabhupada was very happy to have practical men who could do things. You know, someone who's manoratenasiti daivatobhihi. Yashasti bhaktiya bhagavatiya kinchana savargana tatra samasite sura. So this, one develops all the good qualities automatically, without any extra endeavor. But this harava bhaktasya kuto mahaguna, this manoratenasati, manoratena, this chariot of the mind, simply hovering. They have no place. They cannot land. They cannot go any place. And they're thinking, oh, I'm so qualified. I'm doctor. I'm PhD. I'm this. And so basically they're useless. They can't act. They're caught up in some, what is that? Even if it's the mode of goodness, Prabhupada said, what is the benefit? Then again they'll take birth and repeat the same activity. They'll be caught up in this endless cycle of birth in the mode of goodness, but useless. So we have to take our role in this whole affair very seriously. We have to see the big picture. Why did Lord Chaitanya send Srila Prabhupada, the Senapati Bhakt? He didn't send him just to have a bunch of followers who would just chant Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. All right? Even the Christians recognize that those who are simply sentimental followers, they're of no use. They're of no use. Simply taking the name and for no good purpose. But if one is a follower, then he must take up all the activities that Srila Prabhupada showed us how to overcome any obstacle. He never, ever thought that something is so-called insurmountable. And what did he say? Impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. Impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary, right? So we don't believe these things. We have such an example in Prabhupada's life, and we're so fortunate, even from the simplest things to the most difficult things. Even from playing kartals. The first time I saw Srila Prabhupada play kartals, he was like a master musician who could understand how he could make these two pieces of brass sound like some heavenly music. Effortlessly. You know, sometimes you see in the kirtan, people are banging and banging and banging, and they don't, but Prabhupada would simply, he hardly moved his hands at all. If you watch the video of Prabhupada, he kept his hands in his lap, and he just, by manipulation, he played the kartal so expertly, so melodiously. There was no physical energy involved. It was all artistic expertise. So you can learn so many things. Like I said, first time we saw Prabhupada, first time I saw Prabhupada, we were amazed that this is a person whom we can actually surrender to. Because in the material world, no one wants to be the servant of anybody, right? I'm not anybody's servant, especially in New York. No one, you can't. No one. That's a great handicap if someone thinks that you're subordinate to someone else. No, you have to be the boss. But when we met Srila Prabhupada, everyone was immediately ready after hearing from him that this is a special circumstance. This is once in a lifetime. And so there were many fortunate souls. And so this is something that, and anyone who comes to Krishna consciousness, I said last night, that story that Guru Kripa Prabhu told me about how Prabhupada told him, I am ISKCON. Because he was trying to say that I don't like ISKCON. And my wife told me, you're being political. And I'm just telling the story. Guru Kripa said, I don't like ISKCON. I don't like my God brothers. I only like you, Srila Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada said, I am ISKCON. You don't like me? Yeah. So we have to try to connect these things carefully. Maya will try to trick us in so many ways. How we should do something else, how we should leave the society. I have to make money, I have to do this, I have to do that. No. If you want to serve the spiritual master, Krishna will give you every instrument necessary for that purpose. This is without a doubt. Without a doubt. What do they say locally here? They say, Chinta mat karo, khush raho. Chinta mat karo, don't worry, be happy. Ananyas chintayanto mam, ye jana panipasti. Krishna also said it. He said it first. Says he's going to preserve, he's going to protect, he's going to provide, he's going to carry. So what do we have to worry about? We have nothing to do, technically, except to serve his dearmost servant, Srila Prabhupada. And Krishna is doing everything else. And that I learned that term from my workers when I was building Prabhupada's Samadhi. Because sometimes it's a little frustrating that I could think they're going a little slow, or something is not quite right. Right? You remember when we were building? And so they would respond to me, because who am I? I'm just a foreigner trying to do some service there. And they're all Brijbasis. And what did they say? They would turn around and they'd say, Prabhu, chinta mat karo. Because they know this is Krishna's land. Krishna is doing everything. We're just tiny little ants running around trying to build the scaffolding or lift the marble, like that. Ultimately, everything is going on by Krishna. But we get to take the opportunity to participate in this special Leela that Lord Chaitanya brought about. Very special. And if one thinks how special this is, just like if you belong to a special club, you take great pride. People, I'm not so much into sports, but I know that in Europe and other places they have football and soccer, and everybody wears their colors, their team's colors. They want to identify like that. So we also have a certain pride, and we keep it carefully. And but it's more, for our purposes that we keep our sikha, we keep our tilak. You know, these things are necessary in order to protect us and to also advertise at who we are. We should never be ashamed that someone may think, oh, this person is a devotee. Maybe he's not fully competent, right? These people are all brainwashed, right? They're not. So you have to show them by doing the impossible, building the biggest temple, TOVP, fulfilling the prophecy of Thakur Bhaktivinoda. This is just a small part. These prophecies are all linked. So it was foretold that this special Adbhuta Mandir would come up, and now it is there. And we see that the whole world is joined in the chanting of the holy name. There's just a few places left. But that's just a matter of time, only separated by time. As like Prabhupada told that bus driver in New York, Mr. Rubens, he asked Prabhupada, you have any temples here? And Prabhupada said, yes, we have many temples. And Prabhupada, he said, where are they? Prabhupada said, only separated by time. Only separated by time. How can he say that? Why? Because the spiritual master is Trikala. He sees everything past, present, and future. So everything is there. We just simply have to take part. We have to stay in ISKCON. We have to stay in this army that is daily fighting the good fight, so to speak, right? Just like there could be a bad fight. There's always somebody who's like the Kurus and the Pandavas. Somebody had to be the bad guy, in one sense. But this is all Krishna's Leela. You know, it's so intricate. When you read about these stories, how things came to pass. You know, even Prabhupada was describing on one lecture this morning how Arjuna went and asked Duryodhana for the 5 arrows that were meant to kill the Pandavas. And Duryodhana couldn't refuse. And so he had to give them to Arjuna. So how many stories intertwined, you know, in this situation? And so ISKCON is a little bit like that. There are so many stories intertwined. But overall, it is one book. You know, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is just one book. And many chapters. And so more chapters are being written as more and more devotees are coming. More chapters are being written, more temples are opened, more devotees are being made. Sometimes we think a situation is hopeless, and then all of a sudden we see it is completely turned around by Krishna's arrangement. But he requires that one has faith and confidence, and then he reciprocates. This is always his challenge. Daivayesha gunamaya mamamaya dhartya. But for one who is surrendered unto me, it's very easy. So we have to surrender. Don't think it's insurmountable. Don't be that exception. Prabhupada said the impossible, the word in the Fool's Dictionary. Don't be that person who says it's impossible. When they said it to Prabhupada, Rameshwar Prabhu still likes to tell that story. Because he is the one who said that to Prabhupada, that it's impossible. And Prabhupada responded, impossible is the word in the Fool's Dictionary. And when they surrendered to Prabhupada, it was done. 3 months, 17 volumes. 3 months. But it took a lot of effort. All the devotees from the press, from all the artists, everybody had to leave New York and go to California because they needed to all work together. They had to be in close quarters, close association. In those days, there's no cell phones, no internet. You couldn't be faxing things back and forth. So everybody just had to be in one place. So the whole ISKCON press went out to Los Angeles and became basically the BBT, intact with all the artists, everybody. So this shows that cooperation. How Prabhupada said that to show your love to me, you have to cooperate. And by that cooperation, it was accomplished. So anything can be done when there's cooperation. And conversely, if there's no cooperation, then things will become difficult. So we have to avoid any unnecessary controversy. Of course, controversy is never necessary. But you also have to carefully consider, why is it even a concern? Otherwise, everyone should become a leader, and everyone should open a temple, and then everyone can exercise their independent initiative to please the spiritual master and Krishna. That is why Prabhupada would send devotees out. Sometimes he would see 2 devotees, 3 devotees were not getting along, and he would send them separately and say, you go open temples. That's how we solved that problem. Very easy. Go open a temple. And in this way, many temples were opened. Because these devotees were all big devotees with their own ideas. Prabhupada used the analogy. Anyone know? 2 swords in the same scabbard. Everyone knows what a scabbard is? It's what holds the sword. It's called a scabbard. So you cannot put 2 swords in the same scabbard. They rattle. They make noise. That doesn't work. Where did Prabhupada get these colloquialisms? Who knows? From his study of the classics. Prabhupada was expert in every respect. So yes, so he would send them out, separate them. So much success came from that simple activity. And so no one has to feel that I can't, I'm feeling stifled. No, so go do something. Don't be frustrated. Don't criticize. Don't leave. No, solve the problem. This revolution is individual. It's within ourselves. We have everything available, everything necessary in order to accomplish the goal. Prabhupada he said that all success is there in the spiritual master's instructions. All success. So if one takes those instructions seriously, then he cannot fail. He cannot fail. So this confidence is not false confidence. It's not artificial, not based on something material. It has to be based on his faith in the spiritual master. This faith in general, but especially faith in the spiritual master. When one has this, he can crystallize. It's like when you take a bag of cement, it's just 25 kgs of dust. It's nothing. When you mix the water and apply some motion, it becomes cement. It becomes concrete. So they use that analogy to make some idea, some concept concrete. You take something loose, and by the addition of your input, your initiative, you turn it into something. So we all have this opportunity. There are so many places that require devotees. And some temples have no limited manpower. So we should try to find out, where can I contribute? It doesn't have to be something special, big, some prestigious situation. No, it can be just a small preaching center. Everything grows from a small seed. It doesn't start as a tree. And there's that famous Oriental saying, of unknown origins. Some people say it's Confucius. It says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is now. So we have so many seeds that we can plant. Even the book, right? Planting the seed. So if one wants to get encouragement, then he should read regularly Prabhupada's Lilamrita. Because there is so much to relate to. The early days, the middle days, and the end days. In the end chapters, famous chapter, Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and fight. Chant Hare Krishna and fight. Because yes, it's a battle. Prabhupada said it won't be easy. Maya just doesn't give up like that. Right? But if we're sincere, Maya recognizes that. You know, she's, after all, she's also a dear servant. So she's simply trying to test us. Are you qualified? So that is the challenge. Are you qualified? You know? And that qualification, Prabhupada said, the only qualification is sincerity. The only qualification. Lecture in Mayapur, famous lecture, that after Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, Prabhupada is describing the scene. When Prabhupada describes the scene, you can picture it in your mind. Lord Nrsimhadev is enormous. He's not 6 feet tall, 10 feet tall. He's touching the clouds. He's so enormous. And Lord Brahma and all the demigods are standing around. They don't know what to do. You know, Hiranyakashipu is there with his entrails exposed. He's been disemboweled. Hideous scene. And the Lord is covered with blood. Prabhupada said, ears pointing upright. Right? You understand, when a lion is angry, the hairs stand on end and the ears are point straight up. And dogs do the same thing, but a lion is, Prabhupada said, big dog. So no one would have known what to do. No one, but they had a garland. Who knows who makes these garlands? Garland just appeared. The demigods make it. And no one would have, they asked Lord Shiva, he said, I'm not going to do it. Lord Brahma wasn't going to do it. He's trying to get everybody else to do it. He's like the temple commander, trying to get someone to go in the kitchen to wash the pots. Saying, no, you do it. And Lord Shiva said, no, not me. Lord Brahma went to Lakshmi. Lakshmi said, this is very interesting. She said, I don't know if this is my husband. That was her excuse. I don't know. I've never seen this form. I'm not going to do this. So finally, they gave to Prahlad Maharaj this garland. Prabhupada said, like pushing a child into the cage of a lion. But he was completely unafraid because he recognized that this is my Lord. It didn't matter that he was in a form that no one had ever seen, but he could understand from his connection with Lord Nrsimhadev. He came, and Lord Brahma mentioned, he said, he has come because of you only. Therefore, you go forward. And then, to clarify, Prabhupada said, so therefore, it is not by seniority. Lord Brahma is senior. He's senior to everyone there, maybe except for Lakshmi. But senior to Lord Shiva, senior to all the other demigods. He said, so it's not by seniority, it is by sincerity. So this is very clear. Only by sincerity, not by qualification. And who is qualified more than Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma? No one. Or Lakshmi Devi, no one. But everyone can sincerely follow the orders of the spiritual master, and he can achieve complete success in this lifetime. And what more is there to do? Everyone is born and everyone will die. And in between, we have to serve the Supreme Lord to our best capacity, sincerely. And that's it, in a nutshell. And so therefore, this ISKCON movement is just to engage us. Such a wonderful instrument wonderful vehicle, right? Prabhupada is the captain, ISKCON is the boat, and the Vedas are the favorable breezes. And we're all on the same boat, so to speak. Someone is rowing the boat, someone is steering the boat under the direction of the captain. You know, someone is cooking in the galley. Everyone has his service. There's a complete engagement for every single person. The whole world can be engaged. But we have to agree that how to serve with this humility, this prapanam, that first step. Just try to learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master. Render service, inquire submissively. That's all, it's the key. Since time immemorial, nothing else is required. Nothing else. But one should not have a disrespectful attitude. If he has a question, he should put it forward very seriously, very humbly. And he will get the correct answer, because Krishna is seated in everyone's heart. He may not get it initially, but he will get the answer. And that's guaranteed. It's getting late. Are there any questions? If there anything? Anyone want to know about New York? I'm happy to tell you about New York.
Well, thank you. There was a very, very powerful I would say proclamation or encouragement to give it our best. As they say, give it your best shot, or your most sincere effort. One thought came to mind that Prabhupada did the most miraculous thing by, you were talking about different devotees that couldn't get along like that. And so Prabhupada was the great unifier. He could bring together, because our generation, we were like rebels and misfits, mavericks. We didn't really find our place anywhere else, you know. Troublemakers sometimes also. But then Prabhupada brought us all together and put us on the same wavelength to do our best for Lord Chaitanya. And that was Prabhupada's amazing. Can you talk a little bit about Prabhupada's potency of finding the best and bringing people into close unity like that?
Well, we have to also practice Prabhupada's unique brand of management. You know, on one hand encouraging, on the other hand firmly disciplining. Everything is there. There's two sides. I mean, just like a father, he knows when to encourage and he knows when to chastise. Where it's not our position to chastise. We're simply encouraging, but you cannot let someone do something which will harm himself or others. This is the red line. If you're running a temple, you always have to be aware for the safety and well-being of all the devotees, that how they should have the correct, feel safe in their environment so that they can execute their service. So we want to create that. Ashram means shelter. So we want to make sure that that shelter remains as Prabhupada intended it. And that requires all of our cooperation, that the senior devotees look after the junior devotees, that the men protect. I mean, that is their duty. If one tries to neglect that duty, then there'll be chaos. In the old days on Sankirtan, we would go out to Times Square. Times Square was not a tourist attraction in those days. It was considered to be the lowest, most degraded area of New York City. It was synonymous with everything bad about Western civilization, moral degradation, moral turpitude. But yet, we would go out there every Friday or Saturday night, en masse, all the devotees from our temple in Brooklyn. At that time, it was in Brooklyn, on Henry Street. And we would have devotees in the front, ladies in the middle, and then a contingent of devotees in the back to protect from some miscreants. And in those days, we didn't have so-called weapons, but the Kshatriyas of the temple had their specially reinforced bead bags, and inside the bead bags we had kartals. And those kartals were very powerful if necessary, and they were very effective. They were used several times. So this is just part of history, that you take care of the situation, you do what needs to be done. You know, we're not shy to protect the devotees, and that you protect them by whatever means are necessary. I mean, this is so in that sense. But to that question, yes, we have to be like Srila Prabhupada, be welcoming, be encouraging, be supportive. Everything has to be there, and at the same time, be a guiding hand for those who need it when necessary. You know, just careful monitoring of a situation. Prabhupada's famous system of management. He said, management by walking around. Not complex. If you're a manager and you walk around, Krishna automatically reveals, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be cleaned, this needs to be done. That's what he did. The famous story here in Vrindavan. In the morning after the temple program, Prabhupada would walk around. He would do parikrama, just like everyone does now. And just like now, when you go underneath what used to be the deity kitchen passageway, I don't know if it still is, but also was Prabhupada's kitchen at the time. You go underneath that covering, and there's a light, and now there's a switch there. You can turn it. But in the old days, the switch was someplace else. You had to go to the circuit breaker, which used to be on the back of the temple building. And so as Prabhupada's going around, he stopped just past that point, and he put his cane down, and he said, I see, but you don't see. And everyone was completely bewildered. Prabhupada is trying to deliver some esoteric message. I see, but you don't see. And then he continued. And then he came again to that point. And again he stopped. And again he put the cane. He said, I see, but you don't see. A little more emphasis. And the devotees would think, Prabhupada, what does that mean? Does it have to do anything with... No, Prabhupada didn't say anything, only with his special smile. And he walked around again. And then he came for the last time, and he stopped. And he said, I see, but you don't see. And he lifted up his cane, and he pointed to the light that was burning now that the sun, everything was already up. And the light bulb was burning unnecessarily. So these are the things that Prabhupada noticed, walking by. There used to be a tap on the side of the building where people used to wash their feet. It's not there now. So many things have changed. Right on this corner. And Prabhupada people would unconsciously leave it dripping, and Prabhupada walked over and turned the tap to shut it off. So many other devotees were there, but they didn't do it. Prabhupada walked over. And so there are so many instances of Prabhupada doing this in Mayapur with the dirty bathroom Bhagavatam class. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to it. Very famous class. Prabhupada was walking around, same thing, morning walk. And he was disgusted at the condition of the bathroom in the corner where the workers used to live. He said, how are you all Brahmins? Prabhupada threatened that he would not give initiation. All the Radha Damodar buses were there. He threatened, I will not give second initiation. You are not ready. He says, you cannot see this? He said, that means you have the same mode. The same mode. You see something dirty and you don't fix it, that means you're in the mode of ignorance. If you don't correct it. And what is that famous aphorism Prabhupada said? A Brahmin leaves a place cleaner than when he found it. But we have that tendency to ignore it. It's not my job. It's the sweeper's job. He'll pick it up. It's not the sweeper's temple. It's Prabhupada's temple. If someone leaves the light on, whose responsibility? Yes, it's the manager's responsibility. So he has to walk around and see what's wrong. And he has to fix it, because that's what Srila Prabhupada would do. So that's all. We're simply the representative of Prabhupada. We need to walk around, whether it's around the temple or around the world. We have to manage by walking around. We should know what's going on, everywhere. And take an interest in the what can I do? It should not be that I criticize. What do they say it famously? They say, don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Everyone says it, but if you really think about it, yes, that is our service. We have to be part of the solution. The whole material world is going to hell. Why should we fight amongst ourselves about this or that? Like Bagh Bazaar. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta telling Prabhupada at Radhakund, I would rather take the marble off the walls and sell it and print books. Why? Because everyone is arguing. I want this room, I want that office, I want this, I want that. No. And what did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta famously write after that incident, after that time? And anyone could look it up. Who is qualified to live in the Math? I think it's been abbreviated. Who should live in the Math? The Math means a temple. And not that person who's simply trying to exploit a situation. As Prabhupada said, there's a hotel for lazy and crazy people. He said, then the whole society will be ruined. Whole society will be ruined. And he cautioned the GBC, all the GBCs take notice that these temples don't become like that. So yes, Prabhupada, Sri Kalagya, we have to take it seriously. That we should be very vigilant. That we should try to attract, yes, we should try to attract the best class. But any class you attract can be trained. We were not the best class, like Prabhu said. We were the mavericks, we were the rebels, we were the nonconformists, the anarchists. We were not the cream of society. Maybe we had nice families, but we had left all that. All right? Prabhupada said these hippies, they have very rich families, but they don't care. And that's a fact. We didn't care. We discarded all of it. But when Prabhupada, and this is all for a reason, and when Prabhupada came, he was able to collect all of us miscreants. So everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. So we're very fortunate that somehow, and Guru Kripa Prabhu, all glories to Guru Kripa Prabhu for building Vrindavan in Mayapur in many ways. He worked so hard. So we have to recognize the sacrifice, of these different devotees. They gave everything. So we should not be shy. If those devotees could work like that, why can't we work like that? Why are we thinking we're any different? Oh, I can't do that. I can't commit to that extent. Why? To do that, you get Prabhupada's blessing. So what would you do in order to get Prabhupada's acknowledgement or gratitude? Wouldn't we do anything? So Prabhupada is there. I had that personal experience every day. Prabhupada is personally there. Vrindavan is the only place, Vani and Bapu is the only place. And so there's a reason to be attached to Vrindavan. Some people are attached to Mayapur, but I'm attached to being wherever Prabhupada is. And so here Prabhupada is there. And of course, when he left, he said, I am not leaving you. I'm going into your heart. So that was a very strong thing, and we needed to hear that. Because we were all inconsolable, filled with grief. We didn't know what to do with Prabhupada leaving like that. But he told us like that. And he also cautioned, he said, when I leave, many will leave. He said, don't be surprised who leaves, be surprised who stays. So this is the same still. Don't be surprised who leaves, be surprised who stays. So everything is there. Prabhupada is not going anyplace. And someone who does, he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. A Vaishnav dies to live, and living spreads the holy name around. So everything is there. So it's only our foolishness if we think that something is less than when Prabhupada was here. No, everything is exactly as it was. But to our vision, to our imperfect vision, maybe something is less. But if you act as it was, if we act and behave as we did when Srila Prabhupada was there, then there's no difference. We have the same service, whether you're a pot washer or you're a GBC or you're a guru. It's the same service. Nothing has changed. So we have to see through those eyes. That is Shastra Chakshus. Any other questions? Oh, too many questions now. Yes, Prabhu. He has the mic, see? You got to grab the mic. No, it's okay, Prabhu. Go ahead.
Prabhuji, we find something. I'm from Noida temple, and we find some issues, some shortcomings. And we tell to the concerned in charge. But is it a Vaishnava aparadh?
Not if you take something to someone in charge with the right attitude, no. One has to, but if one is trying to get some confirmation that I'm right, and I'm bringing it to you, and I want you to confirm that I am right, then that is not a good mentality. It has to be, I want to correct something. If I cannot correct it myself, first of all, is it something that I can fix? Why do I have to take it someplace else? Prabhupada said, and this is not unique to ISKCON society, the topmost level of customer service is that when someone brings you a problem, you own that problem. It is yours now. You find the solution. Right? The famous saying in the American president, he said, Harry Truman, he had a sign on his desk. It says, the buck stops here. The buck is another name for a dollar bill, $1. The buck stops here means there's no place else to bring it to. I am the ultimate responsibility. So we should all think like that in one sense, that if I can fix it, then I own it. If it can't be fixed by me because it's above my pay grade, then I take it to the next level and I bring it to the temple authority, humbly. Prabhu, I saw that this is something that is in your jurisdiction. It is out of my jurisdiction. So I'm just bringing it to your attention for rectification. And that's it. If it's done properly, then there's no aparadh. Prabhupada had heard so many times, but he was always cautious. And he would always confirm a situation from several sources, not by one source. Always from several sources. Now, I have practical experience. We saw it so many times that, even some of Prabhupada's most sincere disciples, Prabhupada had to take them aside after they made some mistake. And if necessary, he would separate them. That's like we said, the two swords in the same scabbard. Or when the sannyasis became polluted by this misconception that the spiritual master is the same as God. He had to nip it. And he sent them out and said, go preach. He said, don't come back. He kicked them out of the society. Eventually they did come back though. They rectified. But he for the sake of the society, he was willing to separate his best men, if necessary. So this is how serious Prabhupada saw that this movement is not something sentimental. Yes, he had attachment for certain devotees, but it didn't supersede the mission. So even in the military, everyone has that saying, it was drilled into you, mission first. The mission comes first. There may be some casualties, but the mission comes first. So we have to also be careful and use that understanding in the proper context. Right? Prabhupada said intelligence means to analyze things in their proper perspective. Sometimes that's even condensed further. That someone will say desha kala pacha, but that's a little different. Time, place, and circumstance. Right? But intelligence means to analyze things in their proper perspective. So if you have the proper perspective, then one can act accordingly. You can use his intelligence. Don't be afraid to say something, but in the right mood. Prabhu, you have the mic now.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Thank you for the inspiring class. We read how Prabhupada was very compassionate and very tolerant to many of his disciples, knowing that some of his disciples still had some bad habits and still, but despite that, Prabhupada kept them, tolerated them, and changed their hearts some way or another. Sometimes I feel devotees, we're supposed to be an ocean of mercy, and we're supposed to also practice as Prabhupada would be teaching, have some tolerance and teach with compassion. I've seen in my experience in Krishna consciousness that sometimes we don't practice this enough. I've seen many devotees go because we don't tolerate their shortcomings, we don't tolerate their defaults. Because we spend so much time already trying to become devotees ourselves, and we try to make new devotees, people who are not devotees, or people who are coming from a very bad background, and we make all the effort to make them come to Krishna consciousness. And then once they're there, like we're Chintamani's making more Chintamani's, but as soon as an error is there, I've seen many times that we may crush these devotees and let them go forever.
Yes.
Which I feel that doesn't show much of the compassion that we should be showing.
Yeah, we have to follow Prabhupada's example. He was an ocean of compassion. He forgave so many things, and we have to see that in context. You know, and he also told us you cannot make advancement if you do not have compassion. So we also have to know that. And without compassion, there's no advancement. Titiksha kurunaka. No advancement. So one should be very careful. And he should, first of all, be very introspective. What are my faults? You know? That's a very common saying, that one should first remove the item, the log in my eye, before I try to remove the splinter from yours. All right, this is the Christian saying. So, in that sense, yes, we always should see our own faults, how we came, and how Prabhupada cultivated us, forgiving us of so many inequities and compassion. And he demonstrated it when one very dear sannyasi had a fall down, and he was removed from his position, that's okay, but then it was done in such a way that he, without compassion, without proper behavior, that he left. And Prabhupada said, no, you should not have done that. You should immediately bring him back. Immediately. Because we train these devotees up for so long, so much blood, Prabhupada said, into making these devotees. How can you do like this? You know, but it's a matter of context. If a person is going to be, if I have some fault, if I fall down, how does that affect everyone else? If I'm a leader, yes, and I should be removed from my position. There's no question. But there's always a chance for rectification, but not perhaps under the same circumstances that caused that fall down. Because familiarity breeds contempt. One is in a leadership position. He should never think that I'm immune to temptation. Prabhupada, when when Shruti-kirti wanted to leave the room after Bhishma came in, Prabhupada said, "Where are you going? Where are you going?" Shruti-kirti said, I'm going to. He said, "No." He said, "You cannot leave me alone with a woman." This is Prabhupada's sister. So he is setting the example. But so many times we've seen that temple president is giving some counsel. And you can't count how many temple presidents have fallen down as a result of this. But yes, if you're foolish and you do something like that, then you cannot remain in that position. But Prabhupada didn't discard that person. He gave them some way to come back. Always, there's some way to come back. When this particular temple president came back, not this one that we're talking about in this instance, but he was my temple president on Henry Street. And after a year absence, after Prabhupada had literally nobody could have chastised this person so heavily. Prabhupada was so disgusted with his behavior. But after a year when he came back, Prabhupada had tears in his eyes. Because this devotee was so dear to Prabhupada. He had done so much for him in opening up temples, whole geographical areas. Prabhupada gave him another position. But again he fell down and left, and he never came back. But Prabhupada gave him a chance. What's the famous saying Prabhupada said? Does anybody know? Once, twice, thrice, even 4 times, but 5th time not. But who's counting? Once, twice, thrice, even 4 times, but 5th time not. So Prabhupada was very lenient. Especially if it was caused by weakness of the heart. Weakness of the heart is not aparad. Everyone knows the difference. I hope you've been reading and studying that. Weakness of the heart is what that verse, apichetsu duracharo. It's a one-time thing. Repeated offenses, especially in the same situation, this is offensive mentality. That's aparad. You know, you fall down once and you rectify. It happens. Maybe you don't remain, you become a grahasta if you are something else. But you don't do it again. This is the key. Prabhupada was unlimited in his compassion, and Krishna is also unlimited in his compassion. But don't take advantage of the situation. It is up to us individually to have that moral compass pointing north. Don't be magnetized by the pull of Maya. That's how they say, right? They say, when things go bad, what do they say? It went south. Why do they say it went south? What's wrong with south? Because it's the opposite of north. So we have to have our compass pointed at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Then we can remain true. Right? Always. I think it's late. He wants to ask one more question. I hope someone's saving prasadam for everyone.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, sometimes whatever happens in our life, so should we think that is our karmas because of that when these things are happening to us? Why he is my enemy, why he is my friend, these things, all things depend upon mercy. Karma.
Prabhupada told us, Krishna is known as Hari. He takes everything away that's blocking your advancement in spiritual life. No impediment should be there. So if there's impediment, if my business is preventing me from becoming Krishna conscious, then Krishna will finish that business very quickly. And then you have nothing. Loss of wealth, loss of reputation, loss of respect from family members. And then Krishna is our only solace. Because Krishna will never reject us. He's our dearmost friend, always. So yes, these things are all happening by Krishna's arrangement, one way or another. Sometimes minimized, right? Prabhupada said, you unplug the fan, it still spins. So there's remnants of previous sinful activity. So instead of getting one's hand cut off, he gets finger cut. So yes, we should never think that, why is this happening to me? After being a devotee for some time, who thinks like that? Why is this happening to me? No, this is foolishness. That is sign of some immaturity. One thinks that these things are happening. No, everything happens for a reason. You know? There's always something Krishna is arranging for you. You have to see it. Maybe I'm not doing so good in this situation and Krishna is giving me an opportunity. I had such an opportunity. I didn't know where it was going to lead. And it led to the most gratifying service I could ever have, building Prabhupada Samadhi. But I was thinking that I was very happy being in charge of the temple in New York. But no, Krishna said no. He gave some reason for me not to be there. So we have to see that Krishna always has our best interests in mind. But we have to be willing to make the adjustment and adapt. But if we're fixed hard, that we cannot change like the rigid bamboo, then you will break. Instead, you cannot bend. So you have to remain flexible, but not flexible to the point where, you don't understand which way is up or down. No, just to the point where I can adjust where necessary, so that to preserve my Krishna consciousness, preserve my service in whatever situation, to continue on, whether in this place or that place, whatever place, in hell or heaven. Prabhupada said, in hell or heaven. A devotee doesn't care. What is nectar in the beginning is like poison at the end. What is like poison in the beginning is nectar in the end. So we were told this. We know these things. We just have to remember them and implement them when we're confronted with these situations that seem poisonous. Maybe it's meant to be the nectar. We just don't know. We have to see. All right, I think we should finish. Thank you all for listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna's pastimes. All glory to all their lordships and Srila Prabhupada in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Hare Krishna. Gentlemen.